I am a designer of many years, as you can see, and I also have the privilege of teaching. So I am the Dean of Delhi's, or North India's youngest design school, the Sushant School of Design, and I'm a visiting professor from the University of the Arts in London, so one of London's oldest established group of design schools. I haven't seen this young man. For those of you who saw us cuddling over there, I'm not usually like that. I haven't seen this young man for maybe 15 years. And the reason for that is that I am now a Dilliwala and have been for a long time. And Angad is a Pukka Londoner. So we come from, you know, an interesting mix of things that are going on. Just a little bit of a further update on Angad. Just to let you, so Angad is the chief executive of the Caparo group. For those of you who knew Caparo of old, all you would think about was steel. But under Angad, since Angad became the CEO of Caparo, it has diversified into very many magic, wonderful things. And of course, including, as you heard earlier, design, manufacturing, the marketing of value-added steel and niche engineering products. Angad was born in London to very lovely parents, Lord Suraj Paul and Lady Aruna Paul. And he studied at MIT in Boston. He studied a BSc in economics. But as we've said, he's gone beyond that economics thing, if you want to put it that way, into very many wonderful fields, including film. He is the chairman of Established&Sons, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. And for those of you who are car freaks, he was the mastermind of the Caparo T1. Again, an amazing instrument, to say the least. But we are designing this talk as we go, because we've had two conversations on the telephone. And so you're seeing design in process. We both believe in the idea and principle of holistic design. You don't do design, you live design. So we're living design at the moment. And that will also touch quite strongly on what you may get from this in terms of the fact of about design excellence. Because what really is design excellence? But we'll get into that as well. Okay, so Angad, as a good Indian boy, you did the family thing and went off and studied.
I wanted to. I love economics.
Okay.
No, I was always very passionate about economics, and I went to MIT because it was a great faculty. And while I was there, I decided I needed to balance out the other part of my brain. So I did another degree in what was only in MIT, could it be called Media Arts and Sciences. And that's what got me interested in film. But before we carry on, I just want to congratulate Rajshri and the team for this festival. I'm so happy that someone is addressing the importance and issue of design. And I think we should really congratulate her on a fabulous achievement. And long may it continue. So congratulations from all of us.
Let me second that, and I think long would it continue. There's very little doubt about that.
Going back.
Go on, going back. So,
going back, because you rabbit on more than I do.
I know. As you remove the rabbit.
No, so basically, I went and I wanted to study economics. I think it was one of many fields that I'm still extremely interested in. But before I went to university, I was in two minds. Part of me wanted to do foundation. I was going to do foundation at Kingston and then go into furniture and product design. And I had a dear friend called Tom Irvin, whose father was Alan Irvin, and brother is James Irvin. And, you know, I'd always used to talk to them and was very interested from a pretty young age. So just to contextualize how I ended up doing this, creating this furniture company, it was really sort of going full circle, having built businesses into that field. So.
Yeah, because when I first met Angad, he was a young man. We were trying to work out what his age was, and I said, I couldn't think in terms of years. I said, what was it, the Ferrari number 2, Ferrari number 3? And he said, no, it's Ferrari 23, 24. And I said, yeah, that's another thing. But there was always this passion with Angad. We worked together in his apartment many years back, and he would always push the boundaries on what we were trying to do. We could never say no to Angad. That was the case. How did, what was your first real venture then into a creative field where you had to make money from it? Was it film?
I guess it was, yeah, it was film. I mean, the first film really that I made was Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. And I guess it didn't start with the intention of, a money motivation. It was just, something that I believed in that very few people did. So we got together, there was this script. The writer-director, Guy Ritchie, was very, very dyslexic, so we had about 170 pages. We had to reduce it down to 110 to 120, and no one wanted to make it. So we just decided that we were going to do it our way, and we sort of got the usual friends and family and made a movie. And then we had a finished movie that we were really happy with, and no one wanted to buy it, and so we had to hustle. And ultimately we did, and touch wood, I was very, very fortunate to be successful with my first film project. Beyond that, I still have a film company, and haven't repeated that success since. It's a tough old game, but luck and the stars has a lot to do with it, but I think determination is the overriding factor.
Working on film, what did it do, because you're an immensely visual person, what did it do, what kind of buzz did you get from actually being in part of that thing?
Do you know, I think that making a film tests the values of patience. You have to be very patient in the process, something that wasn't an attribute that I was necessarily blessed with until more recently. So that helped. But the incredible thing about making a film that we made on, what was pretty much a shoestring, was that when it did break through, to just see the impact that a piece of art that you're involved with can have to so many people, and how it can touch so many people. I think that's really what was the most humbling element.
Were you worried about the risks you were taking?
I never really worry about risk. I think that if you worry about risk, then it's kind of like you're contradicting yourself. I mean, the moment you take a risk, there's no point in worrying about it, because that's what a risk is. It's, So I think you've just got to pull through. But I think that ultimately, it's risk that actually sort of feeds me.
Keeps you going. Yeah, because if you think about this thing about excellence in design production, the absolute need for to get it right, to get it visually right, so that that the thing that actually makes it work, to get to that area.
Yeah. Do you want me to touch on that?
Oh, please.
Okay. Well, it's interesting because this was the topic of conversation. And in business in general, you kind of have the 80-20 rule. You make 80% of your profit from 20% of your sales. And I think when it comes to excellence in design production, or production of any kind, really, it is that last 20% of final finish that truly defines whether or not you're a quality product. And I think that, especially coming here, speaking, being able to speak in India, which is, my country of origin and where my heart is, the thing that's always let us down here is that I know we have the capability of a better final finish than anywhere, and we haven't quite tapped into that as yet. For me, in everything I've done, it's been about just giving that last 20% of effort so that you can ensure being at the top table. That's really where I think the importance of excellence is. So the design actually gets resolved and becomes something of true value when it is executed with that final 20% in mind.
Was that part of the inspiration for you to actually set up Established&Sons?
Yeah, there was two things really. One was that I looked at a lot of, and even today, Italy is so absolutely dominant. in terms of the field of design. Germany is very strong. Britain has had a massive heritage of, it's got a heritage of craftsmanship. And the idea was to try and get the tremendous design talent that was being, coming through Britain, living in Britain, being educated in Britain, or even outside, but giving them a platform where we could celebrate sort of the English eccentricity and the quirkiness and, all those things. So if you look, I can see we've got this, a presentation on a loop. You can see that we're not afraid of a little bit of eccentricity. And by making sure that we execute in such a way that even something that looks a little bit childlike is beautifully made. For example, the Wrongwoods table. We are able to, you said earlier, break boundaries. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to just take some, just set up some boundaries and try and break through them. Go a little bit further, and my partners at the time all came from the field, and it just seemed to make sense.
No, let's just try and get into that philosophy a bit, because it's an incredibly important philosophy, and we're coming back again about the holisticness of design, design as your life. So I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Did you go just to the big names, or did the big names just come to you?
Well, we always knew that we were building a brand. So, you want to go with, any brand actually utilizes other brands to build its presence. But very early on, we decided to have a good balance between very, very established names and new names, hence the play on words in the name, Established and Sons. It was actually going back to the fact that all the companies that were British craftsmanship, by and large, you'd see, so-and-so shoemakers established on such and such date. That's where the established came from. Or it would be like John Smith and Sons. And so it was a double play on words that we wanted to create something that just was something modern but harked back to an era. And a lot of it was in the branding. A lot of the thought process was in the branding. But we always knew that there was a tremendous reservoir of design talent
that you have to keep
in Britain, just to start with, but throughout the world that deserved a platform. And for example, I don't know if the pictures are up there, but we did a piece with a new designer called Shai Akalai, called The Stack, which has become one of our most iconic pieces. And it was a very, very difficult one to resolve in terms of manufacture and production. But we got it right, and it's selling very well. So, it's that kind of thing. It's the ability to celebrate the fact that, that there are many designers of note, but there are also designers that deserve to be brought through and given a platform.
Excellent. If somebody came to you with a piece of design that was, in principle, beautifully thought out, well, maybe not, that was beautifully engineered. It just made a lot of common sense about the way it all went together, and it was just fabulously finished. But it didn't hit you as a piece that had soul. It didn't hit you as something that was really that abstract beauty that just clicks it. What would you do in a situation like that?
See, I don't think it's fair to be unilateral in a decision, so I would never make a decision unilaterally, because, the whole point about something in terms of the aesthetic is that it is in the eye of the beholder. I think that we would look at it objectively in terms of whether it had the right fit, in terms of the sort of values of that eccentricity, quirkiness, along with beautiful resolution. But we have some very simple pieces as well that just work. It's not just about being loud and brash, Some of my favorite pieces, like the Bob they are very, I mean, the surface table is fantastic for us. That's as much about manufacturing engineering as it is about the aesthetic. And the fact that it is Terence Woodgate, who's a very renowned designer, along with John Barnard, who is the chief engineer of Ferrari Formula One for many, many years, and was one of the great pioneers of composites. And, you know, we've done a table out of carbon fiber that's almost, you know, almost seems gravity-defying. Mm-hmm. And it's proved immensely popular in spite of the fact that it's very expensive. Mm. So it's about just hitting that boundary. So if something was you know, for us it has to be doing something in a way that takes it, you know, beyond the norm.
Yeah, I was at the Maxi Museum in Rome in summer, last summer, and there at an exhibition of chairs, and the original Vasili chair, the original prototype was there with all the lovely nuts and bolts, and in green canvas. It was absolutely beautiful. Then I think about the Vasili chair in a factory going this, slab, slam, bang, and that's the piece. I think we call that China. And but it's just amazing that sometimes in production, the way that we've gone, with archetypal pieces, wonderful pieces, we suck the soul out of them by over-manufacturing sometimes.
I think that's true, but I think that good design doesn't have to be about good art, you know? So I think that there is an element of celebrating the manufacturing process. I mean, a company that I highly respect, who we compete with, who are in a completely different range and have many of the designers that we do, is a company called Magis in Italy. And they are all about mass production, principally out of plastics. But what they've done in terms of their tooling, their design, and their design resolution is taken that injection molding thought process and capability and really overlaid some fabulous design ideas. And in their own right, they're beautifully resolved. So I think that it's very easy to become, you know, a design snob in any which way you look at it. But actually, yes, if you take something that was meant to be done a certain way and then manufacturize it so that it just becomes sort of, you know, like carbon copies for people to, yes, that will be wrong. But if you design it with intent from the start to fit a manufacturing process, then it can be fabulous. Yeah,
designing for situations. I mean, you know, you basically know where I'm coming from. I mean, I'm a Ruskinite, you know, and, you know, Ruskin, when you said you can either make a tool of the creature or of a man, or a tool of the creature or a man, you can't take both. And of course, living in India with fantastic skills, but as you say, there's times when we can't take them to the ultimate at the moment, but it shouldn't negate the value of, you know, of great makers.
But what I'm saying is that the great making can be in a manufactured process or in an artisanal process. I think that, you know, for example, I set up, in our automotive business here, I set up a tool and die shop to make sheet metal tooling, and it's in Chennai. But, you know, for example, I made tools for the Bentley Mulsanne, which is virtually a handmade product. Now, making the tooling determines the finish of the product. And we made those tools. I'm very proud of that. I know it's doable. With the right equipment and the right training, it is doable. So, you know, I think the issue is that you want to take the artisanal passion and put it into the manufactured process. And good design, at the end of the day, has to be about where aesthetics and functionality combine, you know? And aesthetics and utility combine, you know? I mean, even a piece of art, at the end of the day, you have to derive utility from looking at it. So I think that it's extremely important not to get caught up in this dichotomy of what is and isn't great design and what isn't beautiful and what is. There's badly made stuff that can be trying to look the same, and there's really well-made stuff. You know, you can buy a really crappy suit, or you can buy a beautiful bespoke suit, and, you know, a really clever entrepreneur in the UK just realized that when he was in Nepal, that there are tailors in Nepal that were trained on Savile Row and made all the Gurkhas' uniforms. So now he's got an operation called A Suit That Fits, where you can get effectively a £3,000 suit for 600 quid, which is genius, you know, because he's tapped into the skills that are there. And incredible business, you know. You know, at the end of the day, you can tell the difference between a well-made suit and a badly made suit. It's still a suit.
I mean, that's immensely important. And as we've got the kind of decline sort of the Western world and the world over here coming up like this, then I do believe that there's a lot of change in perceptive values, so that, you know, we do need to look at the mistakes that we made in the West by maybe over-industrializing things, etc. Over here, what we can't do is dump X amount of millions of artisans. It is that way of bridging the gap. It's coming between the two. But we'll touch on that just a little bit later. Just want to talk for a little while, because I want to try and get some questions in. The Caparo T1. Tell me how that happened.
Okay. Well, it was a combination of a move into automotive and aerospace engineering from steel, as you alluded to. And I needed something, I wanted to move into advanced composites as well, because I really believe that the future of manufacturing is in advanced composites. And we do a lot of materials engineering surrounding composites and process to industrialize and make it actually less artisanal and more repeatable. So we're developing a lot of pressed carbon fiber technology and for structural components, that kind of thing. I've been fascinated with materials for a long time. So, you know, I'm even fascinated with the idea of utilizing bamboo as a structural material for engineering. Because bamboo fiber, although more dense, acts a lot like carbon fiber. So for heavy applications, you can use bamboo fiber. But I wanted to move into this materials arena, and it was a way of really showcasing what we'd become in Caparo. So 80% of what's in that vehicle is made within Caparo facilities. So the car is truly an embodiment of that which we can make and supply in Caparo, and it's helped, you know. It's definitely helped in people realizing and looking to us as a supplier. So that was really the reason. It was a technology demonstrator. But then, because it's got pretty insane performance, and I love cars. Oh, sorry. Because it's got pretty insane performance, and because I love cars, it became partly a passion project and partly a marketing technology demonstrator. That's how
it's still the fastest roadworthy car.
Yeah.
By far.
By far.
I remember Jeremy Clarkson's sort of trying to drive it. He didn't do well with it, but the Stig did quite well.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know.
Let me put my teacher's hat on, but then just for a couple of things, because we have a problem over here in India when I'm interviewing students to come to design school, and one of the biggest problems we have is that parents turn around and say, well, I want my son to be a doctor, a lawyer, a banker, please, or an architect. We talk about design, and design is just not important on anybody's portfolio over here at the moment. Trust me, I'm there on a daily basis. And that's a great, great pity. But it is changing.
Can I interject, though?
Please.
The reason why, it's because I think that the whole notion of design hasn't encompassed all aspects of design in people's hearts and minds as yet. You know, industrial design industrial design is the actual lifeblood of product design, furniture design. And I think that it's also the way in which design is perceived and brought through. I mean, what you need to do is to create something that has the same ethos as the Royal College of Art, which encompasses everything from pure industrial design to, how to design hospitals, schools, etc. As that coincides with product design and the aesthetic, that's where it starts becoming more credible in the eyes of parents.
Yeah, and just again, understand the overall thing about design. When we try to explain it, again, another scenario, two young people come to you You know, one has got wonderful degrees and, you know, whatever else, but gives you a pretty poor portfolio of work. And the other, you've got to employ one of these two. And the other one comes to you with maybe a diploma from someplace, somewhere, whatever else, but a fantastic portfolio of work. Where would you go? Who would you choose?
We've gone one step further. There's a product by a guy that's never had design training, who grew up like a farm boy in middle America, came to us with this really, really simple thing called a corner light. And it's just something so beautiful, intuitive, and obvious. And he'd never had any formal design training, but we produced his product and we sell it.
Fantastic. So, I mean, again, because that's the thing over here in India, and I've been here for 15 years doing these kind of things, it's just understanding the holisticness of design. And that in truth, design is the most important industry in the world, or the most important profession, but we'll come on to that, that's another story. You haven't got any Indian designers in your portfolio?
Nope, hopefully we're going to change that.
Okay. But and part of that reason may be, and I'm sure most of you know this, that in design per se, hardcore design, in the UK, 1 in 1,000 young people get the chance of tertiary design education. In India, it's 1 in 250,000. It's abysmal. It's terribly wrong. And until we change that, we won't ultimately change what we need to do in India. So that's part of the reason. But just a little challenge. One of the other hats I wear is that the head of fellowship of the Royal Society of the Arts in India. An RSA, 250-year-old organization. Your dad's a big part of that. And over the years, we have always encouraged design. Arguably the most powerful source of energy when it comes to design education ever. So perhaps the RSA could open up an idea with you at some stage to look and see if we can find that very special magic Indian designer who could eventually do some work for Established&Sons.
I'd love that.
Excellent.
Would love that.
Angad, thank you very much indeed.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.